Thank you for being with me. I'm excited because everything you've taught me over the years about present moment living, down to when you're washing your hands, which we're doing far more of now than ever before, really be in the moment of washing your hand and filling the soap on your hands. I practice this all the time. I mean, fully present in everything is what has saved me in this moment of the pandemic and crisis. Because what I find, being my age, having had pneumonia last year, pre-existing condition, I can watch the news and get myself overwhelmed with, the death toll and how many people in your city, your county, and only by coming back to the present moment and reminding myself that in this moment I am breathing, I am fine, I am okay.
Yes, and of course, when you're experiencing some form of adversity in your life, then it becomes even more important to be in the present moment, because if you're not, you suffer a lot. So it's an invitation of becoming present, and then you realize that when your attention moves into the present moment, the situation is not, in most cases, not unbearable. It's actually, it might not be good. Let's say it's okay, you can accept this moment as it is, and then perhaps you can go deeper and actually realize even now there's a lot to be grateful for in this moment. But I think the very important thing to understand is for people so that they can come to accept this situation. There's a law of polarities in this world, and the law of polarities is you have, on the one hand, you have what we could call order. So order means when order is in your life, you're able to think positively, you're able to create, there's a structure to your life, things are going relatively well, and you're contributing, you're creating more order, thinking positively. All this contributes to, and we all want to live in an ordered universe where things are going well, everything is fine, everything is working as it should. But what we tend to forget is that there is a law of polarities. There is not just order in this world, there's also periodically the other polarity, which we could call disorder or chaos or disruption. And no matter how careful you are in your life, and you should always strive for order in your life, but no matter how careful you are, how creative you are, how much positive thinking you practice, at some point you will experience the other polarity of life. The other polarity is actually necessary. Real growth, which is spiritual awakening, spiritual deepening, usually does not happen when things are going well. Although it's great when things are going well, we should strive for things going well. But the deepening happens when suddenly disruption happens in your life.
When you're out of your comfort zone, is what you say.
Exactly, yeah. So I often say it's very unlikely that you will experience spiritual awakening when you are in your comfort zone. Although it's wonderful to be in your comfort zone, but that's not where it happens.
That's when I'm reading the book and the words are great and it's resonating.
Exactly.
But when you're out of your comfort zone is when it gets put to the test.
Exactly. That's like reading recipe books on how to cook. But now you have to start cooking. So you have to do it.
What, for people who haven't read those books or need a reminder, should we be doing now to deal with the quarantine, the sense of isolation, the fear in our minds, all of that? Can you speak to that?
Well, the most important thing is to realize the importance of your state of consciousness. We tend to give an excessive importance to external things, completely disregarding our own state of consciousness. So what is my state, the state of consciousness with which I meet this situation? So become aware of what your mind is doing. Is the unhappiness, let's say you're experiencing unhappiness, is it actually produced by the situations I'm in this moment, which may not be the most pleasant situation, but Or is the greater part of the unhappiness that I'm experiencing produced by a narrative in my mind?
Yes, Eckhart, let me interrupt here. Because one of the greatest lessons I learned, and I think I learned this in A New Earth, is that stress is wanting the present moment to be something that it's not. And so the ability to do what the 5 stages of grief call for, and I know a lot of people are going through real grief with the loss of loved ones, and other people are just grieving not having the life that they are accustomed to and want to get back to normal. And in either instance, the sooner you get to acceptance, the better your suffering will be, correct?
Yes, that's a great lesson to learn when things are not going well in conventional terminology, that you come to accept the present moment as it is. You don't need to accept the totality of a situation, like saying, okay, sometimes people don't understand what real acceptance is. They think, okay, I need to accept that my life is completely fallen apart now, that there's nothing I can do anymore, it's all been completely useless, but I need to accept. Eckhart says I need to accept it. No, that's all you need to accept is this moment.
This moment.
The acceptance is very significant. Something when you completely accept this moment as it is, which doesn't mean that you cannot take action. You can still take action on the basis of this moment is as it is, but this is what I'm going to do. That's fine. The action can arise even out of more intelligent action arises out of acceptance of this present moment than out of rejection of the present moment.
Because I think so many people's anxiety is based upon what they're creating in their minds of what could happen, what if, and what you've emphasized over the years is that the only moment you actually have is now. And when you get to that moment where the if could happen, that is the now.
Yes, it's always the now.
It's always just the now.
The moment the future comes, it's no longer the future, it's the now. There is nothing else but the now. To fully understand that is an awakening. Not just intellectually understand it, but experientially understand what that means, that your life and the now are actually inseparable. Your life is always now. And then you can ask, this moment, is that so terrible? And mostly you have to say, no, it's this moment, is as it is.
Tell us what you believe worry to be. First of all, it's wasted.
Well, worry is, of course, you are creating a narrative in your mind about a future situation that is not good or worse than this, what you have now. You're losing something, any kind of scenario that the mind creates, and then the emotion that you're experiencing reflects the narrative that your mind is creating, but it's not the reality of what's going on now. It's a mental creation. So to realize that, we need to mention here something important at the present time, especially for millions of people, and that is the factor of uncertainty.
Yes.
Which means you do not know what's going to happen. Before you thought you knew what was going to happen, but ultimately that was an illusion too. But at least you thought things were relatively ordered, and you knew your income for next month.
That's causing a lot of people anxiety, not knowing.
Yeah. So this is a very important spiritual practice, to observe this thing in your life that we could call uncertainty, and instead of rejecting uncertainty, coming to terms with uncertainty and accept the uncertainty of the so-called future.
I remember we were sitting at our table having this conversation a couple of years ago, and you were saying civilization does not always move in a straight line of consciousness, that oftentimes we move forward and then we take steps backward. We have an opportunity to take a step forward as a collective consciousness that benefits from what we've learned. What do you think that would look like if we could do that?
Well, it all starts, the collective it starts with the individual. So it starts with you. If enough people are able to experience this, what we could call a shift in consciousness, then the collective changes, and then what we call the world changes, because the man-made or the human-made world is a product of the collective consciousness.
Is this not a moment where we can have an opportunity to unite in how we now see the world differently?
Yes, yes. It's like some higher intelligence that said what you need now is to be still, to go to your room and be still. There was a famous French philosopher, I can't remember who it was, maybe Pascal, who said all the evils of the world are due to people's inability to sit quietly in a room. Of course, the implications are quite deep, because by saying to sit quietly in a room, he's saying more than that. He's pointing to a state of consciousness, of alignment with the present moment, and to have inner stillness rather than just not move.
And also something important that you left me with a couple of years ago, life-changing for me, because it changed the way I listened to news, read news, received news. You said everybody gets caught up in the partisanship and in one political organization or another, and that the media is equally as hysterical.
Yes.
And if you watch it now, you can see that the media plays it's like a reactive role, and it just is a cycle that continues over and over again. And I think if you feed yourself a consistent diet of that, you will be crazy.
Yes. So it's important on a practical level for people to just spend a limited amount of time just to know what's happening every day. Do not spend more time than necessary linking into the collective conscious, the collective madness.
Hysteria.
Yes. So protect yourself from that. Just take in what you need. You need to know the facts of what's going on, but not beyond that.
Yeah. My favorite Bible verse through this whole time, and when I get, I've seen too much news or read too many stories, I just repeat as my mantra, in God I move and breathe and have my being.
Yes, have my being. That's a beautiful, beautiful sentence. And then one of my favorite parables is in the New Testament, where Jesus talks about there's a man who builds his house on the sand.
Yes.
And when the wind comes, the floods come, the house is swept away. Then there's a man who digs deep until he finds the rock. And then he builds his house on the rock. And then the winds come, the floods come, and that house is not swept away. So what we need to do is dig deep. That's actually what he says. Dig deep and find the rock, which means the foundation, the being of yourself, so that you are rooted in the being. And then when the winds come, as they are coming now, the floods come, the winds beating against the house, and the house stands, which means it doesn't devastate you. You're not devastated anymore. And to some extent, your state of consciousness is no longer dependent on the outside world. You have found the rock, which is the being.
Something that you speak so poignantly about in A New Earth struck me the other day, actually, when I was getting ready to do an interview, and I was going through my closet, and I was thinking, what does all of this really mean now? All these things mean nothing, really.
Yes.
All the things that we use to show our status in the world, to say, oh, look who I am. Look what I can have. All of that really, it means nothing.
That's right, yes.
I'm hoping that we all come out of it more united in seeing each other as a part of the whole and looking at ourselves.
I always say we need more love in this world, but in real sense, love is to recognize the other as ultimately yourself, because the being of the other is the being of you also. It is the one consciousness expressing itself or appearing in the disguise of many, many forms.
Yeah, as another person.
Yes.
Another person. Well, thank you for being disguised as ECKHART TOLLE here today.
Thank you.
Nice to talk to you. Thank you.
You too. Thanks.